Hello, everybody. This is Deborah, and this is
Norma.
yeah, good morning. It's a lovely, bright, sunny morning here, which is fantastic because we're based in the UK, and the UK hasn't had the best of summer weather. So
Mm.
I'm just in a different spot today. So if you hear background noise, it's because the French doors are open at the back. So yeah, but today we're going to talk about the subject of loneliness, because in a lot of cases, when we care for others, we find that we can be isolated sometimes just by necessity, or indeed that we might have a team, but we don't think we can talk to anybody, and we become lonely in our jobs, as well as it could be a physical location. So, Norma, have you got anything that you'd like to talk about from the loneliness side of things when you're caring for others?
Yeah, I totally agree, Deborah, that we can get lonely if we're isolated in a work situation. If you're caring for somebody all the time and you're not getting to see your own, group of friends getting out to your own job. It's sort of like if you've got a job in an office and then people are going out for drinks on a Friday and you have to get home because you're looking after somebody, then you're watching people sort of like it looks like they're having a life and you're not, and then you can feel socially isolated. Sometimes it can be a situational thing, as in if you got divorced and then you're on your own again and you feel isolated then. And it's a deep sadness when I think of the word loneliness, to be honest. Even as I start to speak about it, I can feel this like really deep. I don't really know if it's a sadness or like but a deep feeling in the pit of my stomach that comes from when I was young. I went to watch a football match of Manchester United, Max will say it, and there was 56,000 people there, and I was 13. And I looked at all these people, and I just felt totally alone and on my own, like there was no one. But of course, with my upbringing, I was always on my own. I had sisters, and I was taken to a sisters at weekends, and I'd come home. But I was isolated from my friends. I went to school, talked to everyone. They were on about what they'd done at the weekend, and I'd be back at my sisters at the weekend and not with them. And that became quite a lonely existence where I'd go with bravado on a Monday to school and say, oh, yeah, we did this the weekend, that weekend, as though it didn't bother me. But my peer group wasn't there for me. I was always with older people. I didn't have that like basic stuff, that grounding from that you should have with them people. And I wasn't actually caring for anybody else then, but I was isolated in various ways, which was for my protection, apparently. I mean, I can't say it was because I was 13, and back in them days, for 50 odd years ago, it wasn't like it is now. There was nobody to go to. There was no self-help groups. That was it. So, you said something to somebody, I don't know what's up with me, I feel alone. They'd go, behave, what's up with you? Not like trying like now there's self-help groups, there's places to go, there's internet groups, and yet it is really it's quite soul destroying, isn't it, if you do feel lonely. There's certain other times that I was in a relationship and I thought one day, if I want to feel this lonely, I'm going to do it by myself, because I realized that I was with people but I was lonely, and I was with this certain partner of mine and I was lonely because there was no attention, there was no reassurance, and I was damaged, wasn't I? That's why I needed the reassurance and the attention. In real life, it was because there was something from before, and I wanted some attention. I was craving contact, and that was the damage that loneliness did for me from my youth. I mean, as I grew up and now I've got older, you tend to fill them things or look at a different way, and it's things like seasonal loneliness and comes to Christmas time and people are isolated. And it's not just the social events you're not getting to, it's just the normal having a cup of tea, being able to say, this is too much for me now. I need some help to care. And I do believe there's a tipping point with when we're caring for somebody else, that we get to the point that we no longer go and ask for help because we've come to like a sort of care fatigue where we're caring and caring and caring and we don't know what to do anymore. And we haven't got time to look anymore. We haven't got time to take stock and say, actually, I can't do this, or I do need help to do this. I need somebody in my corner talking to me, being there for me. I actually need something. And that loneliness can become, well, it can come out in all different ways, can it? Such as depression or self-harming, abuse of others, abuse of ourselves. There's lots of different ways it can show up in. And sometimes, out of all the podcasts that we've done, I think that when I've been thinking about this on this week, it's been this deep feeling of, just how is it to feel really lonely? and not just being alone on your own, because I'm very comfortable with my own company. You know, I'm quite happy. You put me on a desert island with an answer machine for a month and I'd be in my element. You know, I've got plenty to do and think about, but it's finding the strategies to put in for your own self-resilience, isn't it? Finding things. I mean, mine's quite spiritual. You know, the power of the universal mind, what I believe in, connecting with people on the same level, finding my own tribe now I'm older, you know, knowing what's what. When I was a single parent, that again had its loneliness because I couldn't afford to do much. So, you know, not everything needs a lot of money, but when things did need money, I couldn't take my kids and join in with things because I had three and I couldn't afford to do that on my own, you know. So there's lots of different things that cause loneliness, lots of different loneliness, really, I suppose. But to me, I think it's very sad if I think somebody is lonely. And I think that's the bit that I'm very, you know, I'm trying to say is that to think of somebody sitting lonely with no one and nothing is quite sad to me, especially with being in care homes for so long and seeing the elderly when the families don't visit and the partner's died and there's nothing. You know, there was a gentleman once, and the two gentlemen who sit together every day in a lovely bay window in a big Georgian mansion home that was running. And one day, one of them passed away, and you know, he left the home, and the undertakers came and took him. And the other man was always jolly, but obviously he'd left he'd left his like friend, he'd lost his friend, and he was sat there one day, and I sat with him, and I said, you know, it comes to us all, doesn't it? And he said, yeah, that does, love. He said, but I've watched people, he said, and I just looked and thought, one day I'll just be an empty chair. It will just be another empty chair. And he said, and I've got nothing and no one. And he was in a home with like 40 other people and the staff and people visiting and activities done for him. And the loneliness of that man just broke my heart. You know, one day I'll just be another empty chair. And I thought, oh God, you know, it's quite deep loneliness, isn't it? Sorry, I'm rambling on it, but it's just the way it's sort of, you know, how big is it? How big is this? And how big's the problem in the country? You know, we've got children, like, you know, like you've said yourself, Debbie, you know, looking after your parents. And they're isolated at a young age. Well, I was, but I wasn't caring for somebody. I was just isolated, being cared for. So that was quite an inside out type of thing. But when you're young and then you're giving all that up as well, well, you don't really know if you're giving up, do you? Because you don't know it exists really. And it does take that section, that segment of your life away, you know, and how do we fill that gap then, that void, or repair it? You know, that's to me is quite like a soulful gap that needs nurturing and filling with love and care and compassion from ourselves first, so we don't feel that loneliness. Because if we can rid loneliness out of our life as much as possible, then, you know, we're more of a rounded sort of like healthy person, you know, and we can spot it earlier than others, can't we? I mean, I'm sure that you can spot loneliness like that in someone, because I definitely do, you know. And I talk to everybody, they've got no chance if they want to be on their own. There is another thing I saw the other day, which is a happy thing. I went to a cafe in Kenilworth in Warwickshire. I was visiting my niece and I went into this cafe, and you know, you go into a cafe and there's like somebody on a table and it's a table for four and there's one person. And you look at another one, there's table for four and it's one person. Well, in this cafe in Warwickshire, they have a community table, and it's a huge table. And if you go in on your own because you fancy a coffee, but you don't really want to sit by yourself, because not a lot of people want to eat and drink on their own. Doesn't bother me, as you probably know. But, you know, for people that it does bother, they go in and they sit at this community table, and you just, because I said to a lady, oh, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt your morning, but my niece has just sat here. Am I okay sitting here? And she went, yeah, it's a community table. And I thought, it's the what? And that's what it was. And it's to help people be that are isolated to be included. You know, so there was people there that had just nipped out for a coffee from work. There was somebody there who just had a bereavement but liked to come and talk to people. There was somebody who didn't want to speak, just wanted to watch the world go by, but not on their own. And it was lovely. So there's things there, isn't there, for us when we're lonely. So yeah, sorry, rambling.
Brilliant.
Kind of
No, I mean,
subject.
what you said, thank you, is because it's so true. And I grew up as an only child. I did have a half brother, but he passed away in later life, but when he was about 54, which was terrible. But I grew up as my childhood on my own, and we lived in a very isolated, at that point, it's very busy now, but when we moved in there, very isolated village. And because of what was going on at home, I wasn't encouraged to make friends or be with people, because, of course, if you a secret, a bad dark secret, you don't want the opportunity for people to find it out. So isolated from the rest of my family, although we weren't local in that sense, we were quite a long way away. it was outside in the countryside that I got my solace, looking at the animals, the birds, and looking at nature and stuff like that. And I'm very fortunate in the sense that I've never felt this crushing feeling of being alone and lonely, because I always had a very vivid imagination, and I could always put a sort of a scenario together in my head as, you know, doing things and what have you. But what I do realize is that we do come into this world on our own, and we go out of it on our own. And although we are beings of groups, you know, we're meant to be in a tribe. Well, there's actually, and we're going to go perhaps a little bit more in an esoteric, more spiritual level, and that we are actually all one. And when I realized that as humanity, I was part of this big group, and then the world, and then, you know, the natural world as well, it was very comforting because I thought I was part of this entity, and that was very, very encouraging. I spend long periods of time on my own. I work from home. I live on my own. Some days I'm actually more happy as an introvert to be on my own. Actually, it's one of those things. I thought COVID was great, not from a, you know, sort of a self-centered
for
perspective,
the
but
good reasons.
I didn't have to go out all the time and meet people and stuff. So I felt actually really at home. And one of the things with my friends who didn't like it is they were looking for validation and happiness outside of themselves, that they needed that external stimulus. And that, in my thought process, only goes so far, because unless I am happy in myself, I could be anywhere in the biggest, wonderful, most brilliant environment, and I still feel not great and isolated. Like you said, you know, 40,000 people all around you and you felt like you're on your own. So I've done a lot of work on making the happiness come from within, and seeing what a wonderful person I am, and that I can keep my state of peace and happiness to myself, because happiness in itself is fleeting. Like most things, it doesn't last forever. Being in groups of people doesn't last forever. There will come a time when we are at some point on our own. And I've had friends where they go, oh, to have 5 minutes to myself would be wonderful. You know, so sometimes it's a bit of a double-edged sword, that, isn't it? You know, but I do love the idea of this community table. And this is what we're all about here, is to give that sense of community to people who are caring for others. And it doesn't, you know, you don't have to be isolated caring for a person. You could be a parent caring for a child. A lot of mums who've got kids, and it's usually the mums, because dads are usually the ones that go out to work and the mums stay at home. Not that I've had kids, but I've heard that that can be really isolating if you're looking after a little one and you don't see anybody all day, and it's tough and it's challenging because there's nobody around you. And as human beings, we weren't really designed to live on our own without that sense of a community. We've only just relatively recently in our evolution progress kind of got to that stage. So it's very important. There's certain cultures which have an extended family sort of lifestyle, isn't there? Multi-generational households and things. But for my culture, that doesn't really exist. And a lot of people getting divorced later on in life, or find that they're single later on in life. And, you know, people, that the phrase is empty nesters. You know, people who've had the kids and they're at uni, or they're making their own way in the world, which is absolutely as it should be, but find what's my sense of purpose. And I think purpose, finding something that really ignites you from within, that you can contribute if you're lonely. If you can maybe do, and it's each to their own, but maybe a charitable thing, or putting something out there where you know you're contributing to others. I found that an incredibly good way of feeling included. As I said, don't really normally feel lonely, but feeling included by contributing has been really quite a powerful way for me to feel at one with the rest of everybody else. I don't know if that resonates with you.
Yeah, definitely, Deborah. When you say, like, you know, I mean, when you give, you get back, don't you? So even if it's a sense of achievement and sense of purpose, having that sense of purpose, like say with empty nest syndrome, once your children go, then you sort of like, well, what do I do now? You know, what exactly do I do now? And everyone go, it's my time, it's your time, you know, it's time for you now. But, you know, and when my last child left home, I was like, oh, and they didn't move very far. But I remember going shopping and I'd buy the same shopping and then I'd come home and ring them up and say, come and get your shopping. Because I bought everything for them for that long that really I only needed a basket. I didn't need a trolley anymore. But I was still paying, and there was a pain to my kids. And I was thinking, stop mothering them. They're grown men, let them go and be. But I'd just, you know, I'd go shopping and I'd just be in my own little world. Oh, that's nice, that's nice. And then I come back and think, oh, I don't eat any of this. I don't want any of this. Come and get your shopping. And then you want to keep doing for them and giving out like that. But it's not healthy then, really. So it is a sort of like, you know, how can I contribute without burdening my own children sort of thing. But I just find, like say, volunteer work, taking time for somebody else, even like doing things like this and just, it's, you know, it's going out on YouTube and things. It's there for somebody somewhere, and it's well worth every second that we do it, because you never know whose ears it'll fall on that'll need it one day. You know, just to have that little thing of, it's not just me that feels like this. This is a real thing that I'm feeling, and acknowledging it. Spiritually, because I do believe that we are all connected, and you know, it's very close. I often, like, because I believe in angels and things like that, that I often have these like meditations and like mastermind things with people, you know, people, so there's nobody there. And I think, well, there is to me, because, you know, you can call in whoever you want, really. And it's going into, you know, your own belief will support your isolation and your loneliness if you look into it, you know what I mean? Even like in the Bible or whatever it is you believe in, you know, you pick up your book for whatever religion you're in, and it is in there how to look after these things, how to care for the, you know, yourself in that situation. And I think this loneliness is more of a mindset, isn't it, than a spiritual feeling. I don't know if that makes sense actually, but that's, you know, it's not like you say, when you realize you're part of everything and part of nothing at the same time, it just goes away, doesn't it? But, you know, so is it a mindset thing of, oh, I've just got divorced by myself? Well, you know, we can swap it too. Well, I've just got divorced and now I can go and meet other people and have friend groups that I've not had for ages. I can go and find a hobby that I wanted to do that I didn't have time for, or whatever it is, you know. And it's switching that negative to a positive, isn't it? And trying to find something, looking into yourself instead of trying to fill the gap with something else that's going to take your time. Because if you do come back into yourself, because I spent years looking at externally for validation for somebody to get rid of this feeling, something out there, what is it that's going to stop me feeling like this? And when I actually stopped and looked into myself, I thought, I have to do it. Like, you know what I mean? Like you've said, when you realized that you're part of something bigger, it's really comforting and empowering and liberating, isn't it? To think, wow. And then that sense just goes to calm, just, you know, nice, like a calm sea that, you know, nothing's, well, if a big wave does come, then because you've got that underlying calm, it washes over you and goes. And waves do come, don't they? Everything comes, things come in waves all the time. And when something does hit us, if we've done that work underneath and we've got that sort of level, and, you know, that spiritual or whatever it is for you, whoever's listening, whoever it is for them, that fills that gap, and we haven't got that void, there's nowhere for it to wash into and then keep washing it away. You know what I mean? It's like a solid thing, more solid thing then, that you can help to survive in situations that become bad. Because the other thing is, when you're caring for somebody, if they pass away, there's a void, and that's double loneliness then, because, you know, and then where do they go? Is spiraling downwards instead of spiraling upwards, or even just holding steady? You know, I mean, I've had a recent issue in my family, as I said to you the other day, but that normally many years ago, would probably have devastated me. And it has took a bit of pulling back, but I've thought, hang on a minute, where am I at? And I'm a total different person. I've got that calm underneath. So the wave comes and washes off. It doesn't come and hit me and wash me up the stream and crash me against a tree. You know what I mean? It's been a case of, okay, it's come, now it's going. That's fine. Feel it and let it go past, you know, because that connection to being with everybody is really strong, with, you know, and that's where then you get a stronger power, a sense of community, of a community that people can't see, but of a connection with humans and other, you know, people in not just your community, but all over the world now. I do think one thing that does can make people feel even lonelier sometimes is social media. I think we need to limit the time we're on social media for the reasons that some people are scrolling all the time, looking at other people's lives all the time. And that can enhance the feeling of, I haven't got anything, I haven't got anybody, unless you're in the right groups, of course. So
yeah, it's interesting with social media, because if everybody were completely honest about what it was they were doing, as opposed to maybe giving it the best version and shining it up and polishing it, that, you know, it's not really quite like that. And it's easy to be taken in by thinking everybody's got the perfect life and why is mine always so awful? And actually, you know what? You don't know these people, not really, even if they're friends and all of a sudden they're making a big thing about being on holiday or what have you. What they might not have said is that they've just had a row with their other half just half an hour
yeah,
before, or they stubbed their toe at the end of the bed when they got up, or
yeah,
you know, one of the kids was sick or something like that, and there they are, you know, look at my perfect life.
yeah,
And you know, fair play. I'm not saying anything, you know, why shouldn't we put the best thing forward? But if we're trying to compare ourselves with others as to that perfect ideal side of things, we've got to come from the basis of, was it actually 100% really like that? Or, you know, did somebody lose their baggage at the airport? Or, you
God,
know,
these days.
or, you know, or oh
Uh,
my gosh, you know, somebody's not quite found their passport in time and everybody's panicking. They're not going to put that up there, not usually. So it's always a bit like, I'm pleased for that person, I'm pleased they're having a great time, I'm pleased that they're you know, what have you, but is that absolutely everything? And does their life completely be like that all the time? And if they're a normal human being like you and me and the rest of the world, the answer is no. It's not always like
yeah,
that all the
definitely.
time.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that for as quick as the picture took to take, isn't it? You know what I mean? There's a selfie, and then back to, oh my God, my back's
Oh
hurting,
my
my feet
God.
killing me, my sunburns too much.
Yeah. Yeah. And then looking at other people's social media feeds and going, oh, I wish I was like them. You know, it's just like
Yeah,
it goes on and on and on, doesn't it? But
yeah,
um,
yeah.
and you know what? We are perfectly, what's the word? We are absolutely at the right moment of our life at every single stage of it, because
Yeah,
that's where
definitely.
we are. And it might not be where we want to be, but wanting it, or a desire, is an unfulfilled want, isn't it? A desire. We desire to do it by means that, well, by definition, we haven't got it yet. But actually, again, I was making my life pretty impossible by the demands I put on what would make me happy. So, you know, I'll be all right when, you know, I get the perfect job. I'll be all right if everything happens a day on time and the way I want it. I'll be happy when that person recognizes the fact that I've done a great job. I'll be happy when I can fit into the, you know, a house of Gucci clothes or whatever. And I'm like, you know, I'll be happy if I get, you know, or the reason why is because I'm not pretty enough, or I'm not fit enough, or I'm not clever enough, or I'm just not enough. And then I'm like, crikey, kiddo, I've given myself an awful long list, you know, of what I will be when and if. And I just thought, well, why don't I make it happen now and actually start to believe that actually, you know what? I am all right. I am pretty enough. I am the body shape I should be. I am the person that is fit. I can always get better, but right now, I'm good enough. I'm okay.
Yeah.
And I can be happy about that. And all the things that I've done wrong in my life, which there are many, and all the things I've done right in my life, which are many, and everything I've yet to do, thank myself for it, because I'm the one that did it. And okay, you know, oh, I did that wrong. Well, when I've done stuff wrong, the biggest opportunity for me that it's given is to learn. So when I used to, as a young kid, and I moved to London, and I was sharing, I guess it was be house of multiple occupancy. Now they've coined the phrase, but it was a flat share back in my day. And I hated being on my own at the weekend. Hated it, hated it, hated it, hated it without any, oh my gosh, I hated it. I feel really, really awful if I had to spend the weekend on my own. And I think the biggest reason is that I didn't like myself very much at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And I needed other people to give me a good time because I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
create that from within. And now I look back and I think, oh, why did I do that? Now I'm like, I kind of like having a weekend to myself because I can do all the things I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
I can chill and I don't have to rush here and there. But back then it was horrible, horrible feeling. And I felt that I'd been isolated. People didn't like me. If they liked me, then I'd be invited out for the weekend or doing things. What's wrong with me? And I start to get really paranoid in that downward spiral.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but not once did I ever think, why don't I reach out to somebody? Why don't I
Mm-hmm.
take the initiative? Why don't I plan something? Because I felt that other people should do that for me and to me. So
It's a
that's
need though, Deborah,
interesting,
isn't it?
isn't it? Mm.
Yeah, it is. It's a need that, you want somebody to do it. I mean, to be honest, even these days, now and again, I can slip back into this. Well, why, I want to be asked out. I want Mick to say, let's go and have a meal, and instead of just saying, should we go for a meal? But I want him to do it, so I don't tell him. I expect him to be psychic, and the man isn't, so we're stuck with that one. But it's that old patterns, and when I start feeling like that, I think, right, what's going on around me? That I'm looking for you to make sure that my life's okay. When my life being okay is down to me, because things good and things bad are going to come all the time. Now, like I said, years ago, something had happened and I'd have just, don't know what it'd be like. But, now it comes, it goes, and you just accept that you, things you can control and things you can't, and the inside bit you can. But when you're looking for external validation, you'll keep looking because you'll never find it until you look at you. Because when you do that as well, you're giving off an energy that is pushing people away because it's like a need and a lack. So they're like, oh, hang on, we won't ask them. Or, or they'll say, do you want to come? And you look at them, but it's just your natural reaction. They're like, oh, we won't ask again. So we end up pushing ourselves away from the one thing that we're trying to get. But then, and when you say right and wrong, you've done things that are wrong. I like to say I did things at the time that I thought were right, but if I could go back and change it, I wouldn't have done it. Wouldn't have been made me who I am today, though. Then, do you know what I mean? So when we can accept that, like you said, we're in the right time, doing the right thing at the right time. That's that all that stuff was meant to be then for now, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? To make us who we are, where we are, and what we've got now. Because I mean, for years, I mean, if we had met on a different time, we might not have done what the work we've done together. We might not have even got on. We might have been the best of friends. We might still be best of friends in danger somewhere. You know what I mean? Like Thelma and Louise or something. We just don't know, do we? The other path. So thank God for this path. Thank God we met when we did, how we did. But and out of our damage or loneliness or whatever it was, or validation or whatever it's been, it's brought us together at the same point in time to bring this work to other people. And this work is for everybody out there, for anybody that just needs one sentence, one day, one word, a year, whatever it is they need. It's just an awareness, isn't it? To look at yourself and see, what is the gap in me? Is there a gap in me? And what if you need a hug, you need a handshake, you need a friend, or you just sit and meditate, find your own path. Don't be scared to find your own path. I mean, I was terrified when I first started telling people about what I believed and what I thought and all this, and if you can have it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand type of attitude and belief. And people go, oh, well, just imagine a million, then get on with your life. And I think, oh, not quite getting it. But then I thought, I don't have to convince them to get it. If it's going to come to them, it'll come in their own time. So I need, for me to carry on how I am and meet people that I meet because they're at that level at the time. Do you know what I mean? And hopefully people will connect and they'll be encouraged by what we've been doing to connect and just give it a go. Because I mean, I think it's number 13 or 14 now, isn't it? And we've been doing a lot of these things and reaching out to people, and just give it a go, because we don't know still don't know where it's going to go, but we know it's going somewhere. Because if we hadn't have done it, it wouldn't be going anywhere, would it? And it was only down to you, Deborah, saying, should we do that then? I went, oh yeah, cool. So well done for that. It was a good idea, because
Yeah.
things will pick up. There is an energy now in the world of, you're not alone, and you never have been. And when you realize, it's like a sigh of relief, isn't it? Of, oh, I'm part of something amazing, part of creation, because we are God's biggest, best creation, or universe, whatever you believe in. You're their best creation. So
Yeah,
even
to
an
become
atheist
a
who doesn't
human
believe it.
being, isn't it? To become a human being in the first place. is so many, like, trillion to one
Mm,
to become a human being. All that needs to
yeah.
be taken into account to actually be us. So obviously that makes us very precious. And there is a reason why we're here. For each and
Mm,
every person, there is a reason. And the things that come into my life, I know now, I'm not a victim to them like I used to be. I'm like, they're here for a reason and they're here for me to learn from
mm.
and they're here for me to develop from. And that's not easy when things come in and you think, oh, right, okay, it's not what I really wanted, but what can I learn from it?
Yeah, what you asked for.
Yeah, exactly. Loneliness and being on one's own is, I think, another thing of having that, what is this trying to teach me? What is this
Mm,
feeling? And you mentioned it, and I think we've mentioned this before, is leaning into that feeling and not trying to push it down or squash it, because that
mm,
creates pressure. And the more
yeah.
pressure builds up, the more things are squished down over time. That means it's going to explode.
Mm,
And, you know, the universe will come with you with its metaphorical 4x2 and whack you across the head. Um, and that's happened to me many, many times. I've been very slow on the uptake as to my own personal happiness. But yeah, this whole thing with loneliness, if we can look at it and think, what is it trying to teach me? But
mm,
my mum, right, my old mum, before she died, she was saying, I'm on my own, I'm lonely, I'm lonely. Well, it wasn't quite the case because she seemed to forget that people had been in and talked to her, etc. But I can understand she might have been there feeling lonely by herself. But then when I made suggestions, and I know now I shouldn't because I was trying to fix things and that wasn't right, but it was because I cared. How about going to a community lunch? Or how about, I don't want to do that. How about going on a day out with this group? I don't want to do that.
mm,
And in the end, you think, but it's all out there, but you don't want to
yeah.
do it. So
But
you can
it
only
can't
help.
come to you, Deborah, can it? It can't come
No,
to you. You have to
exactly.
go to that.
Exactly. So sometimes we just got to go for it, haven't we, really? And just think, what's the worst that could happen? So I don't enjoy it. Well, it's only a day, isn't it? Or half an hour or whatever
Yeah,
it is. But you
yeah,
might, or we might just
yeah,
meet people, and then all of a sudden, you've got a new group of people that you can talk to.
yeah.
So it's
I
just,
think,
yeah,
yeah,
sorry.
just getting up and going outside sometimes can be different. I sat on the park yesterday with my two grandchildren on the scooters running around, and I was in a little world of my own. And somebody had known all my life tips up, and he sat talking to me, and it was just a chat. It was a breath of fresh air. And because I was saying things about a recent event to this guy I've known all my life, he was literally born 5 doors away from me. Um, and I thought it's so nice just to have somebody listen, really. I wasn't like lonely with it. It was just knowing that connection was there, that set of ears was there, and then, we ended up laughing, and I felt better since then. Do you know what I mean? It was just, I couldn't see like the extra way to really move forward and to trust the universe again. You know what I mean? Because of past issues, it was a trust thing in me that I was like, okay, so the world is good and I am safe and everything's okay and it is meant to be. And, these things happen for a reason. And sometimes when we're really down, we think, well, what's the reason for that? And I thought, lose the attitude, Norma. It is for a reason and you know it. And in the world, it will always come out for the better. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's an Indian saying, if it's not all right, it'll be all right in the end. If it's not all right, it's not the end. And I think, it's so true. So just have the faith and the trust and the love and compassion. But start with yourself. Start with yourself and self-compassion, caring for you, looking at, if you're lonely, like you say, what is it? Be in nature, do what you need to do, but take care of yourself. And then you can pass that, how to deal with loneliness, to other people. I'll
Lovely.
change the word loneliness to um searching or something, and searching within and looking in
Yeah,
within or something
yeah,
like that, so it doesn't sound as daunting, because the word to
lovely.
me is just like, yeah.
Lovely,
So
Dan.
it's
Well,
coming to
we're
the
coming up now to the time to the end. So thanks, everybody. And as always, if you like to be in touch or if we sparked something for you, please do be in touch. Put the details in the show notes as well. And thanks, everybody. And see you next time. Thanks, everybody. Bye
Thanks,
now.
Deborah. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.